Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today. I'm excited to be bringing you the first video in my new series, of which I'm not sure what I'm going to name yet. I haven't come up with the title yet, but obviously when this video goes up, there will be one. But basically what had happened is I started a conversation on Instagram about things that you guys maybe lack a little bit of confidence in or that you struggle with as far as makeup goes, whether that's a product, whether it's a shade, something that I could maybe give you some help in. As you know, here on my channel, I really strive to help you guys and hopefully bring a little bit of knowledge to the table. Now, if we haven't met, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist. And here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. So today's video is all about blue eyeshadow. And this is one that I had gotten from several people, like, help me wear blue eyeshadow. So I thought I would go through a few of my tips and tricks. We're gonna do 2 eye looks. I think so far what I'm planning on is like maybe something more bold and maybe something more subtle or dark and light. I'm not sure, we'll see where this goes. Now, I think blue eyeshadow is one of those things that can look really, really gorgeous or really, really garish, right? I think we've, all tiptoed on that line as well. I know that I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, this is not where I anticipated that this look was going to go. So my goal for this series is to hopefully provide some tips and tricks that help you gain some confidence in your makeup application. Like I said, whether it's a shade that you're uncomfortable with or a product that you could use some help with applying, I'm here to help you out. And again, keep in mind that if there's something that I do that you don't enjoy or something that I talk about not doing because I don't enjoy it, but you find that it works for you, that's great. First of all, makeup is totally a personal preference thing and it's also art, so it's very subjective. So do you, but if you're looking for some help with wearing some blue eyeshadow, that's gonna be what we're working on today. So let's jump right into that. All right, first things first, I just got the hair out of the way. We don't need to be dealing with that. I don't have anything on my face other than a little bit of my skincare because I do really think that oftentimes blue is one of those eyeshadow shades that can get a little bit messy and you can have some fallout. So I usually will tend to put my face makeup on after I do my eyeshadow when I'm wearing blues. Whether that is a matte or like a shimmery shade, I just find that especially if you're trying to clean up fallout from a blue shade, it can tend to start looking like bruisey and we don't want that to happen. So we're just gonna start with this clean canvas and we will get going. Now, I am personally going to start by laying down a little bit of concealer on my eye area before I go through with a primer. For me, that's needed because I get very dark in this inner corner, and when you're wearing blues, it's sort of essential to make sure that the dark color is only where you want it. And I feel like if you have too much of like darkness under your eye or in the inner corner, it just starts to look either like messy or honestly just not very flattering. You don't want to look like you just got punched in the eye, right? So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna lay down this Tarte Ultra Creamy Shape Tape. So this is gonna make a really nice full coverage canvas for us to start with. I'm going to apply a little bit of this and then I'll zoom you in and we'll get started. Oh, also I should mention, I am starting off with a little bit of staining. If you guys can see here, I'm not getting pink eye. Last night I did a live here on YouTube and my wonderful friend Aileen over at Aether Beauty wanted me to do a purple eyeliner with the look that I did. And so I pulled out my ColourPop Piggy Bank liner and I forgot how much that liner stains your skin. So I totally have like this like purple situation going over here. So that is not an eye infection. It's just that darn staining. And I've washed my face twice and the staining is still there. So it's just gonna be there for the duration of this video. We're just gonna work our darker look on this side and hopefully we can cover that up. A little bit of concealer is on, and like I said, I just put the tiniest amount because I am gonna go over this with an eye primer. So I just have that very, very thin layer of concealer down, but it is already helping me disguise some of my inner corner darkness. So I'm gonna go through with a good old classic eye primer. This is the Urban Decay Eden Primer. We're just gonna do this one eye at a time so that I can work with fresh product on each eye. So on this side, we're actually gonna start with a bit of like a smoky deep eye. And that is one of the things that I will say right off the bat. If you are, I guess, a little bit blue shy, it might seem counterintuitive, but I would recommend starting with a deeper shade. And that might seem a little crazy, but I think that a deeper blue is a little bit less shocking than a lighter blue. I think it's something that can actually look a little bit more wearable, if you will, than a lighter color. And I know, like, you know, again, wearable is one of those subjective words. To me, it can just like lower the intimidation. And maybe not the intimidation of application, but the intimidation of actually wearing that shade. I think that like seeing a sultry, like navy or deep blue eye color can look a little less daunting than like a really, really bright blue. So that's gonna be what we're working on this side. And that will also give us a little bit of time to talk about like blending out these blues. Blues can be a hard one. A lot of times it's about finding the right formula, but there are some little tips that I like to do to make sure that those blues blend out great. So here we go. We've got our eye primed, ready to go. So what I'm gonna say right off the bat is with a primer like this, I'm going to go ahead and leave the lid unset, but I do want to go ahead and set through my crease just to avoid any creasing. So one of the palettes we're going to be working with today is my good old Project Pan for this year. This is the Lorac Pro 2. I really love this. We do have this beautiful navy shade in here, but right now I'm going to be using this buff shade, and this I am going to set down over my crease and all the way up to the brow bone. Now for me, this setting with powder really helps avoid any patchiness and avoids that like deep color sticking to my skin. I think when it comes to these deeper jewel tone shades, if you will, you want to make sure that your eye is primed well. You don't want it to be too tacky, but you also don't want it to be too dry, if that makes sense. Like if you have a drier eyelid, you want to make sure to really hydrate, because that color can really grab on to any dryness. So it's important to prep your lids really well and get them ready for that deep color. So we're just popping that buff shade on. So you really just want something that is very close to your natural skin tone, or even like a shade lighter. So that's what we're starting out with, and that should give us a great canvas to start with. So I did have a couple like navy blues that I was looking at. Obviously we have the navy here in this palette. This is again the Lorac Pro 2 palette. I'm just going to give a little bit of a swatch here. I also was looking at Void in the Kaleidos palette. This is definitely a bit of a brighter blue. So I'll show you guys here. So we have the Lorac Pro 2, and then we have Void from Kaleidos. Now I feel like the navy on the top is actually going to be a bit more flattering for my skin tone, just because it almost leans into that warm blue, if that makes any sense. And I know it's sort of like one of those things where we talk about warm reds and cool reds. You still can get a blue that has a bit of a warm or cool undertone, whereas I think like on cool skin tones, this Void shade is going to look really pretty. We could also decide to use them both. We'll just see as we go through, but right away that was two navies that I have in my collection that I think are beautiful, and they have amazing pigment. Now I'm going to first start by applying to the lid, and I'm just going to use a flat shader brush. This is the MAC 248. So you want something that has very like flat bristles, something that's just going to help lay down that product. I enjoy like a flat shader brush, or even sometimes a concealer brush. So I'm just going to run through here, tap off my brush. These Lorac shadows are pretty soft, which I actually enjoy, but they can cause a little bit of fallout if you don't tap off your brush. So first I'm just going to start by packing on the lid. So you can see that I'm just tapping that into place. I mean, and you guys can see, we're gonna get some great color payoff here. All right, so I've got that packed onto the lid, and you can see we've just got that really nice deep, deep navy tone. I am going to try to keep this smoky eye a bit more of a round shape. It's hard for me because I prefer on my eye shape like a little bit more elongated, but I do like a good classic round smoky eye. So we're gonna try to stick with that, and I'm gonna start by working with all mattes with this and then show you guys a little sparkle upgrade at the end. So now we're gonna move into blending this up into the crease, and I'm gonna use my Rephr 14 brush. So I like this brush because it's small enough that I feel like I can get some really accurate placement, but it has just enough fluffiness to be able to give us a little bit of a blend. So again, I'm going to just tap a little bit of this onto my brush, and I want to make sure to start that almost below where I tapped in that shade on our lid, just to really like dock some of that color off. And that skin tone shade that's underneath should allow me a little bit of a buffer to avoid any patchiness. Now, as we start to blur and blend this out, we will start to shear out that color and it'll get a little bit lighter and brighter. Now, as I start to work this up, I'm gonna actually move my hand further down the brush and use a little bit less pressure to blur this out a little bit more. Now, blue is one of those shades that you can start to get really carried away with. So, you know, a little bit at a time is good, and just take a moment to like step back and look at the shape that you're creating as you go. All right, now that I've got that placed a little bit more, I'm gonna actually try using a bit bigger fluffy brush just to blur that out a little bit. I am gonna go through and use more of a neutral on the edges, just because with my skin tone, if we think about like the color wheel and we add blue to yellow, which I have those like, it's actually like a neutral to warm skin tone. So anytime I use a blue and I'm blending it out into my skin tone, it starts to look more green because we've got the blue and we've got the yellow of my skin tone, so it makes green. So I always like to go in with a bit of a neutral shade as I blend out. And I also think that that's another tip for you guys is, you know, adding a bit of a neutral, especially when you're doing a blown out look like this, it's going to keep that blue controlled. So sometimes I feel like with blues, we just like start going and going and going. And rather than having like I said, that bruised appearance, having a bit more of a neutral around the edge, it just like locks it in place and docks it, and you can really appreciate the color that you're using. Now, you might notice as you're going through and doing all of this blending, if your blending brush hits your lid too much, you might lose a little bit of that intensity of the color. I'm just gonna take my flat shader and tap a little bit of this right over the center. I'm actually not too concerned because we are gonna be going over a beautiful shimmery shade in a little bit, but this way you guys can see what it would look like if we did just matte. And I'm starting to get a little bit of that blue down here, so I'm not too worried about that. We will clean that up, but this is exactly why I said probably do your face makeup afterwards. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the neutrals. Now, it really depends on the look that you're going for, right? But what I would recommend is going with a neutral that has a bit of your undertone in your skin. If you have a little bit of a cooler undertone, choose neutrals that almost have like a little bit of a pink or peachy vibe. And then if you have a bit more of a warm tone, then go through with something that has a little bit more golden yellow undertone. I'm gonna show you guys what I mean. Now for me, not only because I'm neutral to warm am I gonna use a yellow undertone, but I also know that the color that I'm gonna put over the lid in a little bit, I think will look good with something that's more in that yellow to gold. So I'm gonna swatch a couple for you guys here to show you what I mean. Now in the cooler realm, I would say these are both from Sydney Grace, and I have Picking Peaches and Southern Flame. Now you might be looking at this one thinking it's definitely more on the warm side, but it does have that like pink to peach. You could certainly also go through with something that's even a little bit more pinky. So if you guys can see, those are those two shades, and I think that on cooler skin tones, those will both look really nice depending on how deep you want to go. Okay, so I just pulled out a few colors that I'm like, I'm feeling the vibes on. So we have right over here, we have Mango Tea, and then this is Harvest. So these are both from Sydney Grace. And then this color right here is from the Metropolis palette. So it's Antique. So I really like that one. I think like off the bat, if I wasn't gonna be adding a little bit of shimmer in, I would totally go through with Harvest. I think that would be really pretty to accentuate this look, but I know that I'm going through with something that's more like goldy vibes, so I'm going to use these two shades here, the Natasha Denona and the Mango Tea. So, so many pretty ones. I also could have pulled out this shade. I'm just gonna keep swatching everything for you guys. This is Red Start, and this is another Sydney Grace one. We're starting to get a little sloppy on the swatches, but hopefully you guys can see what I mean when I'm talking about warm versus cool. So these might have looked warm at first, but once you look at them next to these, they do look a bit more cool. So hopefully that helps you guys out if you are more cool skin toned. Again, I'm just looking for something that's gonna blend in. Now, just know that again, when you mix these colors, if you do too good of a job in blending, you're gonna make that a little bit more murky. I just want to lay this color and blend it out just enough so that it doesn't look like paint by number stripes. So first we're gonna go through with this Natasha Denona shade. This is again Antique, and I am just going to lay this through the crease here. And again, I think that this just really makes a look more wearable, and it does make it a little bit easier to blend out. I think it's very hard to blend a blue out and have it not look kind of like patchy and discolored on its own, because eventually your own skin tone is always going to show through that. I feel like this video is going to be a million years long just because I keep yammering on as I'm applying. So if you've stuck through this so far, thank you so much. All right, and now that I have that down, I'm just going to take a bit of that mango tea. I really wish that I had more brushes that were clean because I'm running out of options here, but I'm just going to blend this out on the edge. And if I need to, I'll just go back through and, you know, keep adding to areas that need it, which oftentimes happens, like especially when you're doing a smoky eye, it's really about like layering and layering. All right, so I'm just taking that blue and tapping some back on where it got buffed off a little bit, which can happen, but I do still always like laying that lid shade down first. Just, I don't know, there's something about it that it just helps me know where I'm going by starting with the color that I want on my lid. All right, I am feeling pretty happy with the way this looks so far. I do wish that I was that person that had like miles and miles of like lid space and like brow bone space, just because we could really play with the gradient effect of this. But I would also like to say, and I didn't say that before, definitely start a little lower than your target for each color, because as you blend, of course, that color is going to push up, and especially with blues, it can happen really fast. Now, because I don't want to just like hang out with like half a face to go on to this other side before we come back, I think what I'm going to do is apply concealer, get this all cleaned up, and then we will do the lower lash line, we'll do our sparkle edition, and you guys will get to see the whole completed smoky eye look. All right, this already looks much more crisp and clean, just adding a little bit of concealer. Now again, I just want to emphasize that this is not a time to just try to throw concealer over whatever mess you made. You really want to take the time to either take a micellar water or an eye cream or something to wipe that excess pigment away, because if you blend that blue pigment in with your concealer, you're just going to look like you got smacked in the face. And that's not what we're going for. So here we have, I mean, you could honestly leave it like this and still have that like beautiful smoky blue eye, right? But that's not what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a little bit. I am going to choose to keep the navy blue away from my inner corner just because I already have my own natural navy blue inner corner, and I don't really want to emphasize that. So I'm gonna keep this really nice and light and bright. If you have smaller eyes or you know, feel a little bit unconfident wearing deep dark colors towards your inner corner, then do the same. If you feel like rocking that blue all the way through, go ahead and do that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take a very small pencil brush with some of that navy that we used, and I'm just gonna run this along the outer, you know, third, maybe we'll go 2/3. It'll depend on how I feel. This is definitely that time that you really wanna make sure to tap your brush off, and I like to just go through and work this very, very delicately at my lash line. So I'm almost just like stamping this color in. This would actually be a really good time for a flat definer brush. Maybe I'll pull one of those out for the other side, but this would be a good time for a flat definer brush because you can really just like tamp the product in and then give a gentle wiggle to blend. Well, I went a little further than I planned just because I was chatting with you guys, but I left this little inner corner here open so that we can go through with like the lighter shade. I think we'll go through with Mango Tea just to warm it up a bit, and then we'll have that like full kind of like smoky effect. So I'm just gonna take that same pencil brush, I've cleaned it off really well, and I'm just gonna add that in. Now I am also blending these two very quickly together, so like in a short distance, because that orangey yellow and that blue can start to look green really quick, and I don't want to have like a sickly inner eye. So I'm just choosing to go through with this like and blending it fast. Now, if you wanted to, you could certainly do a shimmer shade on your inner corner. That would look really beautiful. But because I know I'm gonna go over this with something like very shimmery, I just wanted to leave it more matte so that the lid will be the star of the show. This is the smudge stick from Stila in Midnight Blue. We're just gonna try to like cover up some of that piggy bank. You could certainly choose to leave your inner waterline completely bare, but I don't really have that option today because I can still see the purple. All right, so here we have our matte smoky eye. I think that this looks great. It's very wearable in my opinion, and I do think that having those neutrals that really go well with my skin tone is what pulls it into that like more natural wearable realm. And I do think that these beautiful navies can be so wearable for anybody. Now, I hope it's okay that I don't go through with finishing with lashes, but I do want to throw on that shimmer shade for you guys so that we can see what it would be like with a little razzle dazzle. All right, I did want to show you guys a few options for shimmer shades. The first one, and what I would say would be the most subtle shimmer, is going to be the shade Cleopatra from the Nubian 2 palette from Juvia's Place. I'm gonna swatch this one next to our blues here. So this is still within the realm of the shades that we did, but it does have a bit more sheen to it. So you guys can see that here. So this would top over the lid and still be very beautiful. One notch up from that is gonna be Aqueous from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. This just has a little bit, I'm gonna put this right over my like wrist bone here, but this one gets a little bit lighter and brighter. So you're gonna see a little bit more of a pop with that one. Now, the one that I'm choosing to use is actually a deep dark shade, but it's going to be very shimmery. And I just swatched it for the first time last night in my live swatch party. We're going to use one of the new marble shades from Glam Shop. So I'm gonna take the shade Nightmare, and this is one of those that is like a swirl of colors. So this is that mix of the blue and the gold. I'm gonna swatch it right over here. So it's gonna be really like deep in tone, but we're gonna get some of that like gold shimmer with this, which is why I wanted to stick with these like warm tones. So I'm very excited to try this out. The best way to apply these, I do believe, would be your finger or a silicone applicator. That's gonna be what I use because you guys know I do not love using my finger, especially when it comes to something that's like so dark like this. I just want the accuracy of something with a bit more of a point. So I got these silicone applicators on Amazon. I'll go ahead and link these in the description box because honestly, I got these for like, it was like, I think under $8 for 6 of them. So I'm just sort of like mixing the shade on the silicone applicator, and we will go ahead and blend this right over the top. I'm very excited to try this one out. All right, now under normal circumstances, I would have done this step before I put any other makeup on my face, but I wanted you guys to get a little bit of the idea what this would look like with a full face of makeup. So you guys can see like that color just added that little bit of something to it. I really like it because it is such a dark base. I do think that like it just is like a smoky eye with a little something unexpected. I really like this. Again, I just laid it down right over that blue on our lid and did not blend it up. I just want to keep it like, I just want to keep that matte blue like working up into the crease. So you guys will have to let me know what you think. Do you prefer the little bit of sparkle or did you like it matte? Now is the time for lots and lots of mascara. So I'm gonna go do that. We'll do this brow and we can take a peek at the look. All right, we are back with our lashes and our brows. I did go through with one coat of the Bite Beauty Upswing mascara, and then I did go through with just the top half of these Kiss Magnetic Lash. I talked about these before. It's KEEPBEAUTYREAL. This was a set that had the little like applicator, and they're supposed to be those sandwichy ones. I hate that. I just use a little bit of gel magnetic liner and then just pop these on. I think that they're like a really great, affordable option. So if you're looking for a magnetic lash that's not like $40 just for the lashes, these are a great option. A smoky eye like this just needs like lots and lots of lashes in my opinion, but you guys will have to let me know what you think. Is this a look that you would wear? I feel like it's already been a long one, but we're gonna hop into this eye as well. Okay, so let's talk about something on the lighter side, which is where I think it can start to get a little scary, because to me, those like lighter, brighter blues can usually be what sometimes we're afraid to pull off. I know a lot of times when we start to get into those shades, we maybe feel like we're gonna be like Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. And that's not what we're going for. So here's what I would recommend is, especially if you are a little blue wary, is finding a beautiful, like shifty, shimmery shade that has a bit of a shift of a color that you enjoy wearing. So for instance, if you are very comfortable wearing purples, go ahead and go through with like a blue purple shift. If you love wearing greens, find something that has that little bit of green and start there, and then you can work off of complementary shades from that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I pulled up a few beautiful kind of like shifty sparkly shades to show you guys so that we can talk about this. Now, like I said, find something that has either just a bit of a shift to make it feel softer, or something that has a shift of a color that you really appreciate and feel more comfortable wearing. So let me show you here. We've got Astro from the Club Nebula palette from Kaleidos. Then here we have Terra Moon's Moonwalk. So the Moonwalk shade has almost that like greeny teal shift to it. So if you feel comfortable wearing those, popping in this bit of a blue base is gonna be just like a notch up from what you're used to, right? I feel like this one, it's actually just like a lighter blue shift to me, but it does have, again, like almost that like pale teal look. Now here we have two Divina shades. This is Altair and this is Aquila. So Altair has that almost like pinky purple shift to it, whereas Aquila has a bit more of that green to it again. Now here we have Glow from Cleona, and I don't know if you guys will actually be able to see that, but it does have that like blue, purple, green shift to it. So that's gonna be another pretty one to be able to pull in to get a little bit of that blue. Now, obviously we have quite the range here, but I feel like these all look a little bit softer in effect than like a stark, like light blue, like that light pastel blue, or kind of like into the like turquoisey look. Let me show you kind of what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna show you a couple tones that give off this vibe, but are definitely much more stark. Okay, so here we have Zola from the Juvia's Place Masquerade palette, and then this one here, if I can turn my hand, it's not coming up quite as vibrant as it really is. But this is Aquamarine from the So Jaded and Kathleen Lights ColourPop collab. So these ones, because they don't really have any shift to them, they are just one straight shade. I feel like this shade is gonna be a little bit more daunting all over the eye. But if we look at Altair here from Divina, you get a little bit of the vibe, but it's softer because of that like sparkly shift. So that doesn't mean that you couldn't maybe pop a little bit of this in, but I feel like for that like softer, more wearable vibe, that's the way to go. So let's get right into this look and I'll stop yammering. I actually start out by buffing a little bit of a lighter color up into my crease just to kind of like get a little bit of a transition going. So I'm actually going through with one of the shades that I swatched for you guys before for the other look. This is Picking Peaches from Sydney Grace. I think this is just going to be like a fun little contrast to what we're going through and using, but it's still, you know, kind of in that like neutral vibe, if you will, because I'm really just wanting to keep this look like lighter, more whimsical. Okay, and then for a base shade, I thought what would be really pretty is this Aquarius shade. This is from the Zodiac collab, again, with ColourPop and Kathleen Lights. This color is just so pretty, and I haven't used it in quite a while, so forgive me for jumping around through all these different palettes. You guys should see my vanity right now, but if not now, when? I mean, I would consider this a pretty bold blue. It's sort of that like cornflower blue shade, but you'll kind of be able to see like just even combining that shade with that little bit like warmer neutral peachy tone, you could really like just do these two as a look and that would be really pretty, but that's not what we're gonna do. Okay, so I just wanted a decent amount of that shade down to be able to lay our Divina shade over the top. I do find that some of these shades, you just get a little bit more like resonation of the color if you have a base shade down. Now you could certainly go through with a glitter glue at this point. I'm not gonna do that in all honesty, mostly just because I know that I have to wash this off in a little bit because I have to go somewhere, and this is not gonna work as a vibe. So we're just going to lay that color right over the top. I'm just gonna try to like use my finger, believe it or not, just to press the shade in, just because I don't need it to be quite as accurate as I need it on this side. So we're gonna take that beautiful shade and just pop this right over the top. So you guys can see already, you're seeing that blue, but you're also seeing that like purpley shift. So I think it just makes it a little bit more comfortable, because a lot of people will wear purples, and you know, blue's not that far of a cry away from purple, but there's just something a little bit less, I don't know, anxiety causing by wearing a shade that has this kind of shift to it. Now, if you were to use a glitter glue, you would definitely get like a higher impact out of the shade as well, but we're just gonna go through and do it like this. And again, I am not too concerned about anything underneath my eye because I know that I'm gonna be cleaning it up in a little bit. I'm gonna take that brush that I used for the lightest shade and just sort of like buff through here to sort of like blend those two together. All right, so I'm just gonna take a little bit more of that Picking Peaches shade and run this through, being careful not to blend these two shades together too much. You do want them to like blur together, but if you start going in too hard, it's gonna get very murky because blue and orange are on opposite sides of the color wheel. You're gonna get brown basically. So that's when shades start to get really murky. Wow, you guys, I am realizing that my collection is lacking like light pinks. I was digging around everywhere. I was just looking for something with some brightness. I think I'm gonna go through with this shade Supreme from the Anastasia and Jackie Aina palette. I just want some of that like pinky shade before the peach. I don't know why, we're just gonna try it. Yeah, I like that. I don't really wear a lot of like pastel purples, and I feel like this blended into that blue, like just at the beginning, it does kind of give a little bit of that purpley vibe. Maybe I'll just work a little bit of this down in through here too, just to kind of like go from that pink into the peach. So it's kind of that like sunset a little bit, and I do want to keep this nice and soft. This is a shape and a shade range that I'm really happy with. I think what's going to help me out a lot is to get everything cleaned up with some concealer so we have a nice canvas to do our finishing touches on. I'll be right back. I went ahead and did this brow while I was off camera as well, but we already look much better just having a clean canvas underneath. So I'm really trying to go a little bit more bold with this, but still like soft and wearable for you guys. Bold but soft and wearable, you know what I mean. I wanted some neutrals on this side. I'm trying to not use any neutrals on this side. You could of course very easily like swap out the peach and the pink for a peachy brown or a pinky brown. That would really make this like even one step less intimidating, I would say. So let's go ahead and take the shade The Aquarius from this Kathleen Lights ColourPop collab. We're gonna use this underneath the lash line just to bring home a little bit of that blue. All right, so I just used it on that like outer third and popped a little bit onto the outer corner as well, just to kind of like give a little bit of depth. Now, I think for my skin tone, the peach color on the outside is going to be what's most flattering to pull through. You could also do the pink if you want it to be more vibrant, but I think we're going to go with the peach just to keep it a little softer. So I'm going to go back into that Picking Peaches shade, and we will work this on the front of our lash line. I just feel like that whole like lower lash line being just blue, it can start to look a little dated. You know, you can start to get that little bit of like an 80s vibe. So if you're trying to avoid that and feel a little bit softer, then this is the time to go through with that like neutral shade that's a little bit closer to your skin tone. I think also like going through with this peachier color avoids that whole like pink eye look. So that's one of the other reasons why I chose this one. And I like the like juxtaposition of like the outer corner and inner corner. All right, here we have this finished eye look. I may go through with whatever highlighter I use on my face in the inner corner here, but I think that too just like brings together a look when you've got a little bit of what's going on in your face, on your eyes. So we could do brow bone, all that. But the key here, like I said, is to choose something that has a bit of a shift of a tone you feel comfortable with. And sometimes even just using something shifty, it keeps it from being like blue with a capital B. You guys know what I mean. Like we definitely wanted a blue look, but something that, you know, has a little bit more of that like modern vibe to it. So again, if you are more cool toned, I would stick with keeping the cooler shade more predominant. But if you have a warmer skin tone like mine, something that has this peachy vibe is really great. All right, so here we have this finish, like it's very blue, yet still very soft. So let me throw on the lashes and I'll be right back. All right, here we have the finished light and bright look. Now, this is obviously still very colorful, and that's what I was looking to do for you guys, is have something that has a few more neutrals added in and something that is like all color. So here are a few options for you. If you want something that is a little bit faster or maybe a little bit easier, just choose one of the shades that we used in our crease, and I put them here. So if you were more warm skin toned, I'd go with something along the lines of this Picking Peaches shade, and if you have that cooler skin tone, I would go through with something along that peachy line, like the color from the Jackie Aina palette. Now, if this is like way too much color for you and you're like, okay, Kelly, I like it, but let's like still keep it a little bit more neutral, then go ahead and do the lid the same, but change that crease into something more neutral with these undertones. And I'm gonna pull out a couple shades to show you what I mean. Okay, I just went digging through like my entire eyeshadow collection, but this is what I would show you guys. So if you guys can see here, let me see if I can get them both in frame. So we have this shade, and this is within the Too Faced Gingerbread Extra Spicy palette. So the Cinnamon shade is more that pinky brown, whereas Gingerbread Glam, so if we just take Hot Tamale out of the mix here, so you can see this definitely has that pinkier tone, and this has that little bit warmer, like peachy, orangey undertone. So here you can see this is that Cinnamon, and this is that Gingerbread Glam. Is that what that was called? Yeah, and this is that Gingerbread Glam. Now, obviously, you can buff these out as lightly as you'd like to create a lighter shade or deepen them up depending on what you're looking for, but that undertone will still give you a bit of that like very flattering vibe, but be more neutral. So that's another option for you guys. I hope that helps. I am very quickly going to slap on some makeup on the rest of my face, and then I will come back and we can wrap this up. All right, here is the finished look. Honestly, you guys, I just mostly threw on some things from my project pan, but I will make sure that everything I used is listed down in the description box because this video has already been long enough. Speaking of, if you did stick through all of this, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I really do hope that you found it helpful. You will have to let me know which of these looks you prefer. Did you prefer the smoky eye with or without the shimmer over the top? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if there is something that you learned from this that you're gonna try on your own and start to wear some blue eyeshadow. I would love to see your looks on Instagram, so please tag me. My account is KEEPBEAUTYREAL, and I would love to see what you create. I'm trying to increase my Insta fam because I think that that's a great way to have those conversations. It's really easy. We can, share pictures with each other, etc. So please do follow me over there. And if you have a request for an upcoming video, let me know. Is there something that you are struggling with? Anything that I could help you with makeup wise? Whether it's a type of a product, a color that you're looking to wear, but have just not found a way to do it, let me know. This was fun for me. I really hope that it doesn't seem like just a bunch of rambling. I hope that you found it valuable because that really is truly why I created my channel. I wanted to have some discussions with you guys, talk about our love of makeup, but really bring something helpful and educational to this space. So that's gonna be it for today, you guys. Thank you so much. Again, if you did like this, make sure to give it a like, share it with a friend, and I will see you really soon.